So first of all, I put some business cards up here, and so if anybody wants to grab one and send me a business plan later on, I am so happy to accept them. And so I thought it might be appropriate to just give you a little background on who I am. I started off as a corporate executive, basically because entrepreneurship was not something that when I was growing up was even in my vocabulary. And so when I started to work, women in the corporate world was a brand new concept. And almost every single job for the first 15 years of my life, my working career, I was the first female that corporation had hired. What I learned very quickly was that I didn't fit any of the traditional roles inside the corporations, and what I had to do was to create my own role. And when I look back on it, basically what I was an intrapreneur rather than an entrepreneur, and that process gave me a lot of skills that I ended up using later on. I've done 9 startups. I'm actually actively thinking about 2 more at the moment. And the process of being a serial entrepreneur is something that a lot of people outside of Silicon Valley just don't understand. I had been asked to go testify in front of the EU, which they were thinking about putting a new tax that would have penalized a angel investor for having a successful investment. And so I was going there and I was saying, you know, you don't understand. You want your entrepreneurs to feel like they'll go out and do it again, and you definitely want your angel investors to go make another investment. And one of the individuals that I was testifying in front of said, I don't understand. If I made a lot of money, I would be on the south of France and I would not take a cell phone. And I was like, and that's why you're not an entrepreneur. I started investing in the 1980s basically because I had a lot of friends that were in the venture world, and my area of expertise was sales and marketing. And they would frequently ask me to come in and do an evaluation and figure out whether or not the problem was they had the wrong sales approach or the wrong marketing approach or maybe the wrong people. And then if it could be fixed, to help them fix it. And my counter was, if I'm going to spend the time and energy fixing it, I want to have some financial reward to that beyond just a salary. And so effectively I started investing. Turned out that's a really nice way to supplement an income. I started the Angels Forum back in 1997, and at that point the word angel investor really was not in our vocabulary at all. And the process of getting people to understand that money could come from somebody other than a venture capitalist meant that we had to educate the other VCs. It meant we had to educate the entrepreneurs. There was a lot of educating that had to go on. Now I walk into any room and I say I'm an angel investor, and people immediately know what that means. And the part that I find so amazing is that that's true literally everywhere in the world that I go. And I spend a lot of time in, I used to call them third world countries. I've been told that the politically correct term is emerging market. But even in those environments, angel investor is understood. So it's amazing to me in what a short period of time that has become a universal word. I'm also very actively investing, and so I listen to presentations on a bad week, maybe only 5. Most of the time it's closer to 10 or 15. If there are a lot of events going on, it could be as much as 25 or 30. And you get really, really good at figuring out which ones you want to spend time with and which ones you don't, with a very short period of time. So the Angels Forum actually receives about 6,000 business plans a year, and which is an amazing number, because I'm pretty sure that we don't get all of them. And so that gives you some idea of what, if you're an entrepreneur, what level of competition do you have? And the competition isn't based on, you know, are they competing with my product? You're competing for my attention. And so I just want to be reminding you that angel investors in today's world have a very wide range of choices about what kind of entrepreneur they want to work with, and if they find any reason at all to say no to you, there are so many other entrepreneurs behind them that they can then choose to just move on. So when you have an opportunity to be able to talk to an angel investor, make sure you're using that time wisely. Make sure you have your elevator pitch razor sharp. And I'm constantly amazed at how many entrepreneurs don't carry business cards. I understand that for the younger generation, you just email each other back and forth. But my generation, and I'm the generation with the money, I like a business card to remind me which person you were. So if you learn nothing else tonight, bring business cards. The Angels Forum listens on a weekly basis to anywhere from 2 to 4 presentations from entrepreneurs that have been screened. And we invest in 4 to 6 companies a year. So do the math. We get 6,000 business plans, 4 to 6 get the money. We're saying no a lot. We also are very active with the follow-on investments, and our typical hold time is 5 to 7 years. Now, a lot of angel investors will tell you that they are looking to have a return in, 2 to 3. And let's be clear, who wouldn't? But the reality is that companies don't get acquired that quickly most of the time. And the companies that we invest in, for the most part, don't get acquired until they've reached some level of maturity and proof. So I teach a class at Stanford University on angel investing. And actually, that's the reason why I'm here today, is that I wanted to invite those of you that are financially qualified to be an angel investor to come take the class. There are so many lessons to be learned about an angel investor. And the first one is, just because you are a successful entrepreneur has no correlation to whether or not you will be a good entrepreneur or a good angel investor. Zero correlation. And more importantly, there is a lot of information that's available. And why should you go through the same learning curve? I mean, it took me 20 plus years to get to this level of knowledge. Why should you have to start at ground zero? At least get the benefit of the experienced investors that not only I will be introducing you to, but those angel groups that they'll be representing, to help you increase the probability that you're going to make money as an angel investor. Because the one thing I'm really clear about is, if you're not making money as an angel investor, you will stop investing. So the class has a very simple, I mean, we're basically following the chain of the entrepreneur. So we start off with an overview, then we talk about how do you generate deal flow and how do you do screenings. We talk about due diligence from the angel investor's point of view, not from the entrepreneur's point of view. We talk about what are the different financing choices. The entrepreneur may be saying, I want to do a convertible note. Well, that's the entrepreneur's request, but you're the one with the money. And as an angel investor, you've got to keep reminding yourself, he with the gold gets to set the rules. So if you want to make the investment and use a different structure, then you need to know what your choices are. The valuation and term sheet is also one, I'm always amused by the number of entrepreneurs that say, I have a term sheet, and then you take a look at it and it's clearly written by the company rather than by another investor. And it's like, okay, that's not a term sheet. That's a wish list. So we're going to talk about, how do you figure out what the right valuation is and what is the right terms that make sense. Because the one thing that is happening all the time is this isn't the last round of funding. And if you don't set the company up for future rounds of financing, the company will die because it wasn't set up right at the beginning. Not because the company failed to deliver, but because there were organizational and legal mistakes made. So that is the responsibility of the first investor, and so we spend a lot of time talking about that. The stages of growth are really, really important, because my experience with working with entrepreneurs is their head is down and they are working hard. And quite frankly, a lot of them are in some zone of sleep deprivation. And if they have any free time, they're spending it with their families or their friends. And the ability to look out into the future and anticipate the next level of growth is very rare within an entrepreneur. That is something that an angel investor is really good at, especially if they've been an entrepreneur themselves. And so understanding what are the triggers and what are the signs that say the company is nearing that point where they're going to jump to a new level and a new need. And the stages of growth are not only about money, but it's about people, it's about how the company is structured, it's talking about how much of the community is being involved. It's very, very important for somebody in the process to be paying attention to that. And it's a great thing, and it's a nice way for an angel investor to provide value back to the portfolio company. The other part about being a good angel is that as an entrepreneur, if you're the CEO or if you're the founder, you get to tell people, this is what we're going to go do. But as an angel investor, you're just an investor. You don't get to tell them anything. So you have to learn how to influence. And more specifically, you need to learn how to influence it in a way that the entrepreneur hears it, processes it, and then comes back with, I have this great idea. Because it will only work if the entrepreneur takes the idea and makes it their own. That's when it's going to be a winning idea. So how do you help the entrepreneur through that process? Governance is a really, really critical issue because failure is the most likely outcome for every startup. Every single startup, failure is the most likely outcome. So if you're going to fail and we are going to sell you for 30 cents on the dollar, I at least want my 30 cents. I'm not willing to have that go to somebody else. And that whole process of what little money is left over is going to be divided is covered in governance. So need to pay attention to those kind of things. Fundraising is a critical issue for angel investors. You're not the last round. You need somebody else with a bigger checkbook to follow you. How do you do that? So in this particular class, we bring in venture capitalists who will talk to us about what the angel investment community has to do to get their companies ready for venture funding. And how do you go about figuring out who is the right venture fund for your startup? Again, a huge gift that an angel investor can give an entrepreneur, because they're busy running the business and they don't have time to go learn about the different quirks of the top 30 investors for their investment segment. And then the last part is the exit. And as we all know, that's the only day that an angel investor makes money. And so how do you go about having that process be something that allows you as the early money to get at least some of that exit money coming to you? I personally have learned that the hard way. I recently relearned it. I was really very upset. But the acquiring company did it in stock and in cash. And the venture people who were sitting on the board somehow managed to get all the cash. And all the stock went to the early investors. You want to guess what happened after the acquisition was announced? The market hated the fact that this company had acquired this particular technology. It wasn't a fit. I never did understand why they were acquiring them. But where the VCs got full value, we literally got a penny and a half. Didn't pay attention to what was going on in the details of the closing. So lesson is even the most experienced investors occasionally trust too much. I also won't do a deal with that venture fund again. So one of the things that I thought would be helpful is to define some terms. So the whole funding cycle is one that starts off with the famous friends, family, and fools. And a lot of people ask me about what that means. So I think friends and family are pretty straightforward. But there's always, a friend of the family or a consultant who is willing to spend a lot of time and energy with a company when they are clearly in an unproven zone. And that's not to say that they have made a mistake. I'm just saying it's really foolish to be in that zone. And if there's a way to be able to invest money without taking that level of risk, that's a much safer way to do it. And so the whole concept of friend, family, and fools is that is the highest risk ever. So as entrepreneurs, I think you have a moral obligation to protect that group of investors more than any other. Hopefully, because they are friends and family, you're going to want to take care of them anyway. But I'm always amazed at how many entrepreneurs will throw them under the bus the first time they're asked. They don't even offer any objections. They're just like, oh, okay. I know that the next round of funding, I'm going to be in the same position. And you just told me you're not going to fight for me. So I have a couple of choices. Get rid of you, take you out of the point so that you can't be the one that is speaking for the company. That's probably not in the entrepreneur's best interest. Or not make the investment. So how you treat friends, family, and fools, says a lot about your personal integrity. Early money is basically where most of the angel investment community comes, but one of the things that you're going to learn about angel investors in a second or so is that it is not a stage of investment. It is the source of the money. So early in money can be venture, it can be corporate, it can be government, it can be angel. It can be any of those. But they're typically really, really early, and you're still in the frequent pivoting stage at that point. And then as you get more mature and you've locked down the business model, you move into growth and hopefully into expansion, and if we're really lucky, you'll move into what we call the mezzanine round, which is when you start rewarding the friends, family, and the fools that have been investing with you along the way, and let them kind of add a little bit more into the company just before you do your IPO. So as I had mentioned, angel investors is not a stage of investing. It is the source of the money. An angel investor is investing their own personal money. That means an angel investor could be doing a Series A or a Series E. There are no rules about who can participate in what round. It's just, is it somebody else's money or is it their own? So a venture capitalist is basically a hired gun. They're not investing their own money most of the time. Now, very, very successful venture funds, you'll see that somewhere between 30 or 40% of the whole fund are their own money, because they know that they can make money in this business. They do have the Midas touch. And one of the things that if you were to be, as an entrepreneur, looking at the venture fund, trying to decide whether or not this is a fund that you want to work with, I'd ask them what percentage of the fund are they invested in. So there are all sorts of types of angels, and not everybody invests with money. And that's one of the messages that I want to make sure that you focus on. So there are types that have wealth, and they came into that wealth through the old-fashioned way. They earned it. But there are lots of people who have acquired it. Daddy gave you some money. Maybe you went through a divorce, maybe a relative died, all sorts of ways to acquire wealth. And so just because somebody's wealthy doesn't mean they know what they're talking about when it comes to working with a startup. Their experience level can be all over the map. A lot of Silicon Valley's angel investors are former entrepreneurs, but not all of them. And a large number of the corporate executives in Silicon Valley that have literally spent their whole life in the corporate world are looking at the fund that the rest of us are having in the angel investing, and they're coming into this pool. That's not to say there will be bad investors, but it's important to understand that a lot of your early stage issues are stuff that they don't understand and probably don't have a lot of patience for, and for sure aren't really good board members in the early days because they can't cope with the lack of structure. The other type of experience is industry specific. So if you're in enterprise software, having somebody that has never ever sold a software package to a corporation might be really wealthy, might be really interested in helping you, but they don't have the industry expertise to make the connections. So every angel investor has their plus and their minuses. The one thing that I ask all my co-investors, and I invest with a really wide range, literally from all over the United States and occasionally all over the world. When I am looking at a deal, I want to know who I'm co-investing with, and this is the question I'm asking them. What's your involvement? What's your motivation? I want to know why they're interested in making the investment. So some of them think that this is a really good way to make money. They're totally passive. Others are bored. They want to get really, really involved. Most of the time, that's not a good thing for the entrepreneur. Sometimes they have an agenda. I want to support somebody from Turkey. I want to support women. I want to get this technology out into the world. When DNA was very, very hot, I mean, nowadays everybody understands, but there was a period of time when that was something new. There were a lot of people that were saying, I don't care if this is successful. Every startup that we have in this industry is moving the industry forward. And so, you know, they have an agenda. I'm fine with that. I just want to know it up front. The one thing I will warn you about are the job seekers. They're going to put a lot of money and then turn around and want to be the CEO of the company, or they want to be the VP of sales. And almost always, they're not qualified. That's the reason why they thought they would buy their way in. Believe me, entrepreneurs, you are so much better knowing that up front so that you can make the decision about whether or not you want to take their money. There are also individuals who will do time only. They never invest money, but they will invest a lot of time, and they're counting on you giving them some stock in return for that. These can be really valuable people. If they are truly connected, they can introduce you to moneyed individuals, and for the most part, I won't say that we never invest in companies that come on through, just over the transom, but almost all of ours, somebody has introduced it and is saying, I know this entrepreneur and they can be trusted. You need somebody that can do that and can make the introductions. These are really hard to find, especially in Silicon Valley. And if you find one who has his heart or her heart in the right spot, you should really take care of them. And then there are those who are absolutely no money at all, and they don't really have the connections, but they really like what you're doing. They make you feel good. They'll waste a lot of your time. The investment community has a lot of different styles. The super angels, for the most part, tend to be lone wolves, but not all. Super angels means that they're investing A, a lot, and B, large quantities. I remember having a conversation, I was on a panel, and one of the super angels, very high profile, was talking about the fact that they had just made 3 investments that day and had taken board seats on all 3 of them. And I said, oh really? And just out of curiosity, how many active portfolio companies do you have? And he said 47. And I said, and how many board seats do you have? And he said, I think I have somewhere around 35 to 40. I didn't take a board seat on a few of them. And I'm sitting there saying, there are only 30 to 31 days in the month, and assuming that you could get everybody to, only have a board meeting on, the one open day that you have, there aren't enough days in the month for you to be able to get to all those board meetings, plus be prepared and having done the pre and the post board meeting work that a good board member should be doing. And I'm just like, poor entrepreneurs. But the benefit of having a super angel is that they are very high profile, and they do tend to have a high lemming effect. If one super angel gets behind something and he makes a few phone calls, others will follow. So if all you need is pure money, sometimes that's a really good thing. The angel groups almost always have a wide variety of different agendas, different styles, different investment capabilities. And so one of the things, if you're looking to join a group as an angel investor, is that you need to understand, there are different ways to run an angel group, and you need to find one that works for you. As an entrepreneur, you need to find out, are they one round and done, or are they going to be doing follow-ons, and how are you going to be working with them? So, there are some angel groups, most of them tend to be in the Midwest, where they'll have 70 different investors. They're all writing individual checks, and they all send you emails saying, how you doing? Did you make the month? And trust me, this is not a good use of an entrepreneur's time. You really want to be able to have a central place to be able to communicate with your investors. Lots of different investment philosophies. The sprinkle and sprout is one that constantly comes in and out of popularity. Ron Conway is probably the best known for the sprinkle and sprout. But that basically means I don't spend a lot of time figuring out who you are. I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out if you're the best. I'm just going to make a lot of plays in this segment. Somebody will sprout. Initial investment but no follow-on is a very common one within the angel community. And then small initial and then reserving for follow-on is much more common in the venture world. Industries, some angels will only invest in the industry that they came from. Others will invest based on a cause or their agenda, some based on geographic. Others will only do it based on investment stage. If there's a different way to slice and dice the industry, trust me, they've done it. So as an investor, I have a couple of key phrases that I constantly talk about in my class. And one is the core question for any investment. And this is one, as an entrepreneur, each of you should be able to answer for me. And that is, will I, as an early stage angel investor, make money? If the answer to that is yes, I'm all ears. If the answer to that appears to be no, I'm going to stop the conversation and move on. The other things that I talk about is that you can only fall in love with people. You can never fall in love with technology. And so when you're doing the investment, you need to spend time figuring out who are the people in the startup. Not how good is their technology, because trust me, I've made investments in some really outstanding technology, but the team couldn't deliver, and that technology died. And some of them I still mourn, because that technology could and should have changed the world. And the entrepreneur and the team couldn't deliver. Who you co-invest with makes all the difference in the world. Thank you. Who you co-invest with makes all the difference in the world. One thing I can predict accurately, every single startup I've ever invested in has an moment. And in that moment, if the investors come together and work with the entrepreneurial team, a majority of the time we get through it, and we get through it pretty quickly. If at that same moment the investor community starts arguing with each other and starts finger pointing and causes blame and doesn't focus on solving the problem but focuses on how did we get here, we're not going to survive. So I'm really clear, who I co-invest with makes a big difference. The concept of exit is always one that amuses me. I ask about exits because I'm trying to figure out, what the entrepreneur is thinking about in terms of the exit. But the truth of the matter is, the company never gets to pick the time for the exit. And so the question is, when those opportunities come, how are you going to evaluate them? I have a situation, and it happened at least 6 years ago. I'm still as upset about it today as I was at the time that it happened. We had a drop-dead, oh my gosh, technology. And Big Co comes in and says, we have maybe $3 or $4 million into this company. I mean, it was really early, but they were able to very clearly see that this was important technology. And they said, we'll buy you for 100. And in their incredible wisdom, the board of directors said, if they're willing to pay us 100 today, in a year or two, when we've proven out the technology, they'll pay us even more. We'll wait. Well, what they didn't really understand is Big Co was going to buy the technology. If not from us, one of our competitors. Clearly, the number two was way below us. But now they have Big Co's brand behind them and Big Co's sales force behind them. And when we went out to the market, we couldn't even get appointments because Big Co already owned it. We ended up putting, I stopped investing. But another 40 million went into that company, and we sold that company for $16 million. I'm still upset. How you think about the investment is really, really important. And the first rule of an exit is when you get an offer, no matter how crazy, no matter how absurd, or how insulted you are as an entrepreneur, you must tell your board. You must. And hopefully your board will have enough sense to understand that the offer that you get is just the first offer. If you work with the company, I'm pretty clear that we could have gotten that up to 150 without a lot of pushing. And that would have been a very, very nice return. Thank you ever so much. Sure beats the 16 million that we ended up getting later on. So the company never gets to pick the time, but when the large co's come around, understand they're not willing to wait. They're going to buy somebody. If you don't know how to deal with that situation, then start asking for help. And the board of directors is the right place to start. Your lawyers are another great place to go. And asking investment bankers, regardless of how small you are, is always a good idea. And then the final thing that I have learned over the years is never, ever, ever underestimate an entrepreneur. I have been in board meetings where it's pretty clear to me that we're done, that this company is, and I get a phone call the next morning, miracle, and I'm like, how did you do that? Entrepreneurs are amazing people. We create something out of nothing. And so just because you and your collective wisdom think that something is unsolvable doesn't mean the entrepreneur thinks that it's unsolvable. And I am constantly in awe of how brilliant and how creative and how resourceful entrepreneurs are. And I have so much respect for every single one that ever tries to start a company, whoever works for a company, whoever has a passion that they want to take forward. And I hope that each of you have that same respect. So I have a class on angel investing at Stanford. We're going to start on the 15th. If you're interested in taking the class, this will put you straight into the registration process. In the spring, I'm going to be teaching a class on how to be a board member. And the class on being a board member is designed for entrepreneurs and for angel investors. This class is designed exclusively for the angel investors. So, with that, any questions?